Okay, so you probably have some questions about your roofing system. So what do you put underneath the roofing system? How do you take the roofing system off? Where does the debris go? I'm gonna try to answer most of the questions that I think that you may have. And if I miss them, just give us a call and we'll try to answer anything that you have. To give you a start, what is a roofing system? I think that's the basic question that most people ask. So, are all shingles the same? Is felt paper as good as synthetic? What is ice and water shield? What are starters? What's drip edge? Do I need ridge vent? And so I'm gonna just try to cover the basics and then just give me a call if I miss something. First, what we do is we check when we do a roofing inspection because it helps us to see how many pipe collars you have. Do you have a chimney that needs to be flashed? We look at how many layers are on the home. We only install one layer. So no matter what roof we do, we tear off the existing roof and we get down to a base. Putting a roof on, it does get noisy. Frames do fall, and I try to tell customers, like, take all your frames down, remove anything that's valuable outside when we're tarping, because the tear off process is what gets noisy and gets messy. We have our own dumpster company so that they come in, we remove all the debris, and we check your plywood. And what we look for is there any rot, is there any soft wood? We remove it if there is, and we replace it with new plywood. Then what we do is we ice and water shield, and we drip edge the perimeter of the house. So what is drip edge? Drip edge is a piece of metal bended on a 90 with a lip at the bottom, and if you can see it faces out from the rake. And so what it does is that if water drips off the edge, it goes down and it flicks it so that water doesn't travel down the fascia board. And so if houses without drip edge will get water that runs behind their fascia board, and that's what creates rot. So we just include it in all of our packages. Maybe this house has probably 300 feet of drip edge. So we just add it in our plan. So when you pick our silver plan, our gold plan, or even our diamond plan, everything comes with drip edge. And then everything comes with ice and water shield, which is tucked up underneath, and everything comes with synthetic. So then what we do with the ice and water shield is we do the eaves, and then we do the valleys, but we also do the rakes. So that's like if you had a gable, a point, we do the perimeter of that point or that gable. So a lot of people say, what can I expect when we're gonna get a roof replacement? We're usually there at your house by 7:15. The guys are tarping the house so that we can protect your shrubs, your bushes, and when we're tearing off the old shingles, that it doesn't damage anything below. By about, I'd say 8:39, depending on how big the house is, we start removing the roof. And then we check the roof for any rot. So if there's plywood that is soft or it's leaking, we first rip that off, we put it in our dumpsters, and then we replace it with new plywood. By about, I'd say 10:30, 11, we're putting on your drip edge, which is down here. We put drip edge around the entire perimeter of the house. And then we ice and water shield all your eaves, your rakes, and your valleys. So the ice and water shield is a stick-on material that is unpenetratable through water or through like ice that that would break down a simple felt paper. So we also check for your ventilation. So if there isn't ventilation where we cut ridge vent in the top of the roof, we can install. It's an option. A ridge vent by Owens Corning on the top of the shingle, or we can check your soffits and we can remove if you have soffits that are basically don't have ventilation. We can put ventilated soffit in so the air can come up through your eaves and then release through your ridge. And then after the ice and water shield's down, we use a synthetic. And there's 3 different synthetics that we sell, all Owens Corning: Rhino, Pro Armor, or Deck Defense, and 3 different ice and water shields that we sell, depending on if it's silver roofing system, gold roofing system, or our diamond roofing system. This is our Owens Corning Weatherlock Matte ice and water shield. So we bring it in 3 foot, then we overlay it with our drip edge, which Santos is putting on right now. You have this Pro Armor, which is our synthetic, and that is then layered over top of every layer. So you start at the bottom and you layer it so the water always rolls and the bottom layer is always tucked over the top layer. And then this is a synthetic. We really prefer Owens Corning just because like this, if staples pop through the Pro Armor synthetic and then water ends up somehow getting under the shingle, because of the way the fibers are in the mesh, it like closes the hole. So it's a great barrier so that the water's not gonna get through. The helm we're on right now had a significant amount of rot due to felt paper. So felt paper is traditionally what most homes use for a synthetic. And what it does is it tears, it rips, especially when you put a staple or a nail through it. So then over time, if it doesn't have ridge vent, it creates heat inside the roofing system. The shingle, the tar underneath the shingle delams, water or wind-driven rain pushes up underneath the shingle, and then what happens is that it finds its way through the tar paper, and then you find rot in your roof. And you usually don't understand that there's a leak for maybe up to a year or two because the insulation underneath the plywood usually soaks up most of the water. So by the time you realize there's a leak, it's already been there for 3 or 4 years. The one thing's the same is we always use Pro Starters, which is the first strip after we pull chalk lines to make sure that the shingles go up straight. So this starter strip, I like the Owens Corning starter strip because it's a little longer and it allows 2 sets of nails to go into it. So this is our starter strip, and we put this on the eaves and the rakes. And what it does is, if you can see it down here, is it starts your shingle. So it has tar to seal. It has tar to seal the first shingle, and it also keeps the nails out above the nail strip on the duration, and then it allows you to start placing your shingles. In a wind situation, which we get gust and high wind, that's an area of concern, is the bottom of where the shingles start. So having a strong starter strip is the key to keeping a good seal on the whole roof in storms. Next step is the shingles. We put the shingles on. We only sell 1 line of shingles. Inside the Owens Corning system, what we sell is the duration. They make a shingle called Oak Ridge, but it doesn't have the shore nail strip. And in our area, we have just decided as Apex East Roofing that we were only going to start with the duration. And then they do make a designer shingle, but it's just preference in color. It's look and color by that point. But from a structural standpoint, the duration is 130 mile an hour wind shingle, 50-year warranty shingle. This strip that they put in is patented, and you put 6 nails in it. And what it does is that the wind, especially being down here on the shore, holds it in place. So if the nail was just in the shingle, then it's easier to tear. But by having the shore nail strip, it holds that shingle firm. The good thing about this shingle too is they have more tar, which is like the sealant that sticks it down to the shingle that's underneath of it. So for us, we want to sleep good at night for what we install, so that's why we as a company chose the Owens Corning duration shingle. So when we install our shingles, we install them in a step pattern rather than what they call a zipper pattern. A zipper pattern is every other shingle is offset so that when rain hits, every other shingle catches the break. By doing a step pattern in the shingle, it allows water to only hit a seam every 6 shingles. So this is what you call a valley. So we would do 3 foot of ice and water shield down, synthetic underlayment. Then we run this slope of shingles underneath this slope, and then we cut back this we pull a chalk line, and then we cut each shingle to make it straight. So then when the water falls into the valley, it's protected by the shingle that overlaps up into this slope, and then the ice and water shield. So if something was to clog, it creates a seal, but most homes leak usually in the valleys because that's where the water meets. So you should basically have 2 times as much water because of the slopes joining together. This is a ventilation pipe, and what we do is we ice and water shield around your ventilation pipe, and then we'll use a pipe boot, and then we'll silicone it, and then we'll put the shingles back onto the pipe boot. So anywhere that water could penetrate is basically what we're trying to create extra barriers on. Like we do white, black, and copper, especially if you're on the ocean. Copper holds up better than aluminum. And that's what sets the waterproofing around the penetration of the chimney. As you can see, Jason is starting to pull the shingles from the bottom. We'll get to the ridge vent. So all our systems, this one didn't have a ridge vent in it. So we cut back 1.5 inches on either side so that the air can come up through the soffits, which is under the eaves, under the gutters, and then it flows and then it pulls the air out the top, which allows the heat that's inside your attic to basically to remove it without having to use a power fan or a gable vent. And it just keeps the house flowing, and that's how we were able to give our warranties through Owens Corning, which they'll offer a warranty up to 50 years. In the summer, it's great, right? But there's always a question. What about in the winter? Is my house venting, and is it taking that warm air out? Well, what happens is if air's not moving under your roof, then what it does is it creates humidity, and anything over 55% humidity creates mold. And so what it does is it keeps air moving, but it's not enough because it's only a 2-inch gap on both sides to really, you'll see a difference in your heating bill. The only difference in the heating bill that I've seen homeowners is just to say that their air condition is lower. So it actually saves the electricity by removing the power fan, and you're not, and in the summertime, it's not as hot because your air conditioner isn't running as long. We sell 3 different ridge vents, which is basically a roll material, a rigid roll material, or the 4-foot strip. 4-foot strip obviously is the best. And then we put the caps. So whatever color shingle you get the caps to go over the ridge vent so you don't see it. One of the things that we do different is you'll see some ridge vent will stop right before the end of the ridge, just where the air comes, because they close off 2 foot on either side. We just make it symmetrical to come all the way across so it looks better. Sell 3 different lines of ridge vent. So it's basically the venting system that's underneath the cap shingles. So these are cap shingles, and then the ventilation that's underneath of the cap shingles, this is like a corrugated plastic. So it has maybe, I'd say like 500 air ventilation channels per, say, like 24 inches. And what it does is it has a felt membrane underneath of it so that our air can get out, but water can't get back in. And so it's bent down, so if water was blown up, the corrugated plastic keeps it from going back into the home. Because I get a lot of questions like, how, if your ridge is open, you keep water from going into the ridge. We have another system that's called the 4-foot Venture Strip by Owens Corning, and that ventilation's on the top, but it stands out longer. And what it does, when rain comes in, it goes down and then it flows out. And then it creates actually a suction, because when air hits it, it actually pulls the air from inside the attic, and it releases the air. And the better the ventilation in the attic, the better the stronger the home structure is, because it's not creating moisture on the wood and then bowing. So you'll see roofs that'll have like sag marks in them, where you can see where the rafters go. That's because it's poor ventilation. Or you'll see a shingle that'll curl. It's because the roof got so hot that it cooked the shingle. So what it does is it curls the shingle, and then underneath the shingle, where the tar adheres from this shingle to the shingle underneath, peels up, and then the water goes in, finds its way back into the home through the nail underneath. So Jason, right now, we're installing the gold roofing system today on this house in Woodbine, but Jason's using what we call electro-galvanized nails. And so these nails last longer, and then we know that even if water did get to them, that they're going to stand the 50 years on the warranty that we give for the Owens Corning roofing system. The only different nail that we use is a hot dip nail, and we do that in our diamond system. So they measure roofs by pitch, and there's 2 numbers that you always hear. So they'll say, hey, what's that, a 412? Or that's if it's real steep, it might be a 12, or even a 1412. It just means if you took 12 inches, what is the raised angle? So if it goes up 2 inches for every 12 inches, that would be what you call 212 pitch. Anything that's flat, this is a 212, you really don't want to put shingles on. So the flat roof material to match the shingle, which has a membrane, you can make it a 3-part or you can make it a 2-part. So we ripped off the old rubber roof, we replywooded it so that it was smooth, and we put the membrane down, and then it's basically like a roll shingle material. So you can see there's not seams, there's not nail holes. It's all, what we do is we seam it down with a special gun. And this is how you handle flat roofs, so then you can match them to your shingle roofs. We're replacing plywood right now in this home, and so that the customer knows that what we're doing and that what we're charging them for is what they get. So I'll take this photo real quick, so like watch. Here's my men, I take the photo, and then what I'll do is bring the drone back down. Then we can just go in, look at the photos, and then they can see the plywood, and then I can just text it to the client. So there, boom, done. So one of the things that we've done for basically the last 10 years was race motorcycles, or dirt bikes. So when my daughter turned 17, she decided that she wanted to finish high school a year early and started to go to work. So I thought, hey, let's start a business. So Apex East Roofing is a family business. This is my son Canyon, and you'll see him on jobs. Every morning he wakes up at 6 a.m. with me, comes to work. He's homeschooled, so he can still do his work on the road. And you'll see my daughter usually come with me too, Brighton. She also has a pink truck, and she's been doing the project managing and just driving me around when we have estimates or inspections to do. So my family has been in the area since, I guess it was like 1904, 1905, and we love it here. So for the last 10 years when we raced, that was most important to us because I was with my daughter, my wife, my son. And so when racing started to slow down, we said, how can we still do things together? And so we just picked up the roofing company because I've been in it for 20 years before this, helping another company, and we decided to step out on our own and do it as a family. And so far it's been awesome. We usually do about one roof a day. And so you'll see my son on the job, you'll see my daughter on the job, and you'll know that my mom's my secretary. So we're small. We love to just kind of give that family feel. Well, I hope I've answered most of the questions that you might have about the roofing systems. If you have any others, just give us a call.